This is still Signature Morning, and you can always follow us on all our social handles at Signature of TV Official on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and on YouTube. We're at Signature TV. It's very important that you know this. Just subscribe. We're on 24 hours. We've been talking on the hunger and hardship protest, and yesterday the president, or earlier, well, yesterday the president came out and made an address speech that seemingly, from the speculation, from the talks of people, that didn't address the nation. Although it's meant to be an address of a nation, one of actually slammed and condemned this was Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, who actually frowned at the lethal force being encouraged to be used to quell the situation of protest. Right now we have a guest by Zoom in person of Richard Aduchi Kocha. He is an associate professor of public law, River State. He's also the executive director, Scalesworth Center for Democracy and Development, Port Harcourt. You're welcome. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and good morning, Nigerians.
Okay. Talking about the hunger and hardship protests, several people, Atiku had come to put out, this is not an address to the nation. In addressing the nation, what are your reactions about them?
I am afraid that to a large extent I agree with those who have criticized the address so far. There is this saying that you should be careful what you ask for. Nigerians had been calling for the president to address the nation. Naturally, what they expect is that the president will address the issues they have raised. But I am afraid what we got was a State of the Nation address, an address in which the president, as if in periodic gauging of his policies, jot out his policies, what he's doing, where he's going, what is to be achieved, etc., etc. It did not quite touch on the protest. In fact, the only legitimate thing
Hello? Hello, Mr. Richard. Can you be more audible? Hello? Mr. Richard, it seems apparently that we can hear him.
The expression
of
dialogue. So I think the only thing.
But before we connect back to him, this hunger hardship protest, many people have been agitated, and the agitation, we've been believing, we've talked about it severally, that we're hoping that the president will come out to address the nation as regards that. And when he finally did, it criticized, and one will wonder, what would you want to be done for Nigeria? However, seeing what is being thrown at us, there are several things that we talked about. We talked about this, talk about hunger, talk about severe hardship. Several people come and put a disclaimer, this is not what we are saying, this is what we're saying. At some other point, with people thought, oh, is it possible that the federal government is talking from two sides of their mouth? Because when they will say, oh, we're actually begging you to protest. And at another point, it's as if they're throwing force and threatening those that want to protest. Still on that matter, we still have Mr. Richard Nwokocha with us.
I can hear you clearly.
Okay, now let's have more of your reactions.
Now I was saying the speech addressed the hunger and hardship that are issues raised by the protesters. Policies are good, and everybody understands that the president is implementing policies. What is missing is that people are saying, look, we need to be alive at the end of this policy.
Okay.
and excruciating hunger coming from the way the policies are being implemented. And so the president was supposed to address these issues directly. What is it that the federal government feels the pain?
Okay, one of the things I know a whole lot of people have said that did not address the demands of the protest. As a matter of fact, I saw a list of what the demands are, and I also spoke to one protester who said to me that one of the ways that the government is able to get the people out of the street to announce a reduction of the pump price of fuel. And I'm wondering how it would be, you know. Mr. Wokochumi.
Yes, I worry, but it has restored. It has been restored, yeah.
Okay, I think we're having a bit of a network challenge, but if you can hear me,
I can hear you.
I saw one of the demands of the protester, and I'm wondering how possible would that be? The government says there's no going back on the removal of fuel subsidy. The demands of the protesters is that the subsidy be and I'm wondering really, if we do that, putting ourselves in the foot, is it not nice for us to, you know, basically feel the pain and then maybe try and balance things out later?
Been a good idea. What you are suggesting would have been a good idea. But you know, if as things stand, NNPC is telling us that some level of subsidy is still being paid. So that subsidy being paid too. And we agree that we cannot completely restore subsidy. But is it not possible to clean up the subsidy system? Because the reason why subsidy was removed was that there was too much corruption associated with subsidy. Handling corruption, dealing with corruption is government responsibility. So is it not possible that we can clean up the subsidy system, have a reasonable, legitimate subsidy system that addresses the pain of the people and stops the corruption that caused us to stop or to claim that we have stopped it in the first place? Yes, we can't go back completely to where we were, wasting money to people who are losing anything or who are not importing anything. But we can clean up the system, ensure that, like all nations do, we are paying subsidy in a manner that it goes to the welfare and well-being of the people, and not using it as a scheme to fraud the nation, as it was being used until May 29 here.
Yeah, and again, in that broadcast of the press, he also mentioned that the other policies are almost gaining traction. For instance, the CNG kits to, you know, different bus states, so that buses can now run on CNG instead of the and the fact that the Dangote refinery very soon will still come on board. He had the NNPC sell in Naira crude to the refinery. The fact that right now we no longer use 90% of our revenue to service debt. I mean, these are positive. Isn't it just a nice thing for investors to listen and bear a little longer and see where this takes?
Well, NG buses, it's a good thing. If it comes, it will enable at least some level of reduction in cost of transportation. So that's a thing. But remember, that promise did not just come. It's been a bit long in, and it's been announced before, and we don't seem to be meeting the timelines filling out those CNG buses from the first time that Mr. promised that. That's not to say that it will not be done. We are hopeful, I am hopeful as in, that it will be perfected and that those will be rolled out. Beyond it, you raised the other issue of our going through the pain once and for all. Respect to was that foreign exchange or so? No, okay, yeah, of Dangote. Dangote refinery getting fuel in naira. Be a fantastic idea. Analysts have said, economists and analysts have said that will at least the cost of fuel to at least 300 naira. If that happens, we are presently fuel in Port Harcourt at 850 naira, and in some places in some parts of the country is going for up to 1,000 naira. So if that happens, it will definitely create a reduction in cost of living. In fact, hopefully, they say in Nigeria prices go up and don't come down, but hopefully happens, that will bring down prices. But we need to be alive to see it happen, and that testers are saying 70,000 naira minimum for public workers. You know the cost of Gary stay. The cost of Gary is about 33,000 to 35,000 for season, which will not carry a family beyond 2 weeks. A family of 4 cannot take for up to 2 weeks. The cost of bag of rice as well beyond 70,000 naira. So even that new wage means very little to an average family depends on it. So for those who are not even in gainful employment, who are just doing one little thing or the other, how on earth will they survive until that Dorado when the price of fuel will come to 300? This is where governments need to be so much sensitive in responding to issues of this nature. Think of mitigating policies, mitigating adjustments in the policies that will enable at least the average citizen survive the long take for our dream to come true. And a second thing, protesters, about which government can do something, is that government officials are living the life of affluence. Citizens are at the point where they want good meal a day to survive. For some people, you have to choose that you will sip Gary, if you even find the Gary to sip, to stay alive, drink water. And then at the same time, you're talking of purchasing of you're talking of purchasing fleet of cars, government officials who already had cars at exorbitant prices. So, I mean, who is fooling who? The citizens are seeing this every day. Life is for citizens, the nation, including the citizens, is being wasted elsewhere. What will happen if government says, oh, to share part of your pain, we are going to reduce home? How about reducing the cost of governance, which is part of what the protest asked for? How about reducing the allowance of government officials? You know, those kind of steps. And why don't you stop this purchasing of things at exorbitant prices that do not make sense? As the United States of America is, with 5 to 6 time zones, it has only 14 secretaries of state. Nigeria with 30 states, we have 40-something ministers with the associated expenses we do around them. So if government is as heavy as it is, why can't we reassure the people by cutting on the cost of governance, cutting down on what we are consuming ourselves at their expense, at least assure them that there is hope?
Okay, I see that you agree with the policies, some policies of the government of Bola Tinubu, part of it at least.
So say, okay, let's
you have. Can you hear me? Okay, I see that you agree with some of the policies that the president put forward, because we tried it in 2012 and the protests stopped it, and we had allowed the subsidy removal to remain in 2012. By now, we wouldn't be talking about subsidy anymore. But of course, some people would say the way and manner the president removed the subsidy may not be the best way. But I mean, all the 3 presidential candidates said they were going to remove subsidy, but how they were going to do it was a way, you know, was another thing altogether, but going to be removed anyway. and the fuel
Definitely.
price would
It
have
was
also
necessary.
gone up. So with the
Yes.
few of the policies of this current administration,
A lot
you
of
have
them.
you have mentioned that reducing covenants is also one of the things that you propose or you are proposing. How should the
Yes.
government cost of governance around, beyond just cutting down their salaries, or some people have advised in so many ways what for them reduction of cost of governance is. For you, what is the reduction of cost of governance? How do you advise the government if they come to you and say, we want governance? How do you advise that we go about reducing cost of governance?
Fortunately, the government already has some advice on this. The Resaya report made recommendations to recognize the fact that there were too many agencies doing practically the same thing. These functions being performed by 3 agencies in Nigeria can be performed by 1. And they had recommended cut down on those agencies, fuse them back into where they belong. And some of those agencies are carrying out functions that ministries properly run can carry out. So these are some of the things you need to do. Why do you need to have 40-something ministers? Why? You have ministers of state, not just that trying to ensure that every state has a minister. You have more than 10 or 12 in excess of the number of states. And for each ministry, there is a huge amount of money we are spending as a nation in maintaining the structure of that minister as a minister, with all the retinue of staff around him and assistants around him. We are spending a huge amount of money. Why don't you cut down some of these things and say, look, as part of our measures to reduce the cost of governance so that we can plow back the money into service that will assist in raising the standard of living of the people, you are cutting down on number of ministries. And you do the merger that will enable appropriate ministries fall into where they should be. That is one. A number of those agencies, I have mentioned agencies, a number of the agencies that exist do not need to exist because one of the existing ones is supposed to be doing the work of all 2 or 3 existing agencies. You cut down that one. Now, stop buying luxurious things at a time when there is hardship and you are telling the people endure. That sends a wrong signal. That tells the people you just hate them. You are enjoying all the packages of office and more, and you are asking them to die. How many of them are you don't know what is happening to them. You don't know how many of them are dying in each day, and you are just telling them, just try, and they are not seeing you try. I recall in the IMF days, in the military days when we rejected IMF loan, the government told us, look, it's going difficult. We are going to have to do something together. And they cut down some things about that we are doing. And citizens were willing to do their own sacrifice and say, yes, let's reject this loan. We can survive it. So you must work together with the people. You can't have a line dividing government from the people. The people are going through hell and government is having an Eldorado. And politicians are coming out to boast of how much they had and how they are prepared for the next election. These are all insensitive. The time when you are asking citizens to tighten their belts and they are barely just surviving. So goodwill measures that can be taken to reassure the people that, look, we're not in this alone. And our government has some good intentions. You can't have dual system where one side is in heaven and the other side is in hell. And you think people should be patient and wait. It doesn't work that way.
Do you think that the protesters actually gained anything? Understand that protests are still ongoing. Some organizers have said that the protests continue, Abuja and Lagos and Port Harcourt. But so far, do you think that they have gained anything on the reasons why they went out to really protest?
I can't say with confidence that they have gained, because from the speech of the president, it does not show that the president is even fully aware of the issues. If the president addressed the issues and is saying, look, give me time, I'm going to deal with them, we would say there has been some gain. But at the moment, I am afraid that I haven't even seen that. I have seen that. And then perhaps Recall also that there has been quite some loss of lives, for which the president says it is sad that should happen. But you must be asking yourself the question, are there no alternatives? Is that what nations do in other countries? Live ammunition to address civil protests that are not armed, peaceful protests. Is that what should be done? What happened to arresting people? And what happened to using rubber bullets? What happened to spraying water and all of the devices? Why must we use live ammunition to respond to citizens who are at pain and who are saying, look, give us some attention, we just to stay alive? Why should live ammunition be what we use at all times? I didn't say the president's speech condemned that, and instead he said they should continue and maintain the high standard of human rights as they continue with us. As they continue in dealing with the protest. Should it continue? Now, these things are things that shouldn't happen.
Okay, like you said, using live ammunition is not something that should be encouraged. But you would discover that in some parts of the country where this protest place, some people actually went ahead to destroy infrastructure. There are videos actually making the rounds of people breaking drainages and all that, and the slabs that is to cover the gutter, and some. One woman who actually came out crying that her shop or her looted, in the bid to protest. So
Yes.
what other way or how best would they actually help to curb, owing that the president also in his address said he's committed to protecting lives and property?
Yes, government has responsibility to lives and property, and that is legitimate responsibility worldwide. And the question we are asking, other than live bullets, can't we arrest those who are doing those things? Remember that this is not a spontaneous protest. It's a protest that was planned over time. Discussions were held across board. I recall the meeting with organizers and all that. And private policemen in private to VIPs have all been withdrawn to enable them focus on this protest. What happened arresting those people? You can arrest them, try them and jail them. What the law is about. The circumstances in which a law permits you to shoot to kill. It's not somebody who stole something and is running away with it. These people are not armed. So you could have arrested them. You may not be able to arrest all, but you can arrest as many as you can and bring them to book. Nobody says that looting is part of protest. No. Anybody who engages in that is criminal. But the price prescribed by the law for stealing is not the live bullet and instant shooting and killing. So why don't we implement the law? Why don't we do what other nations do in that instance? Must the life of a Nigerian be absolutely worthless the way we have presented? Such that somebody steals a carton of Indomie from a shop. He's a thief, he's a criminal, yes. But should the punishment be death? Arrest them.
Okay, protests are actually legitimate of every citizen. But again, when it dovetails into, it becomes, a problem for the government to control. We understand that the reason why the government begged the people not to go on to protest was because of the experience that they had in 2020, where the protest was at some point peaceful and then got into situations. And so they tried all they could to stop the protest to happen. And we've seen violence across the country, just name it. Gombe, Kano,
Borno and Kano and others.
Several scores of people in this particular protest. Isn't it about time that the protesters just go away, because it's becoming unbearable?
The issue here is you could even have stopped the protest in place in the first place. And naturally, that's what the government should do. Proactive steps would have included government taking action to address issues being raised by the protesters at the beginning, instead of chasing of there are people who want to derail the government, people who lost the election. Instead of looking for what is behind it, who is sponsoring the protest, why don't you at least listen to what the protesters are saying? Because that way you could have mitigated the damages. You could address it even at the beginning. You could have told them, look, give me so and so lines. In 1 week you will see this, in 1 month you will see that. And the protesters shelved the protest. But the right response did not come. We have to be, the right response did not come. You and I have a job and we are managed to stay afloat. We can eat 1 or 2 times a day. A larger, vast majority of Syrians cannot, because they are not at the level that you and I are in. And so, if things are going wrong, everybody who organizes protests undertakes a responsibility. Protest is a right, is correct, a fundamental right for that matter. But protest comes with responsibility. If protest gets out of hand, you must answer it.
Yes.
Now, we also know that in this country, our experience how often than not that because government knows that looting and destruction of property, violence is a reason to stop protests. In 2020, in 2020, you clips of government officials, government vehicles, bringing in persons, church and all that to attack protesters, so that government will say, oh, this is violent, and then they will step in and stop the protest. That is not a good fit. You can address the issue, you can prevent the protest from taking off in the place. You can also ensure that the protest is not violent. By ensuring that protesters are protected, yes.
Many thank you, Chief Richard Nwokocha, for your input in help as we are trying to address this hunger and hardship protest and evaluate the presidential speech. We'll go for entertainment news. We're right back. Thank you, Chief.
Citizen Bluetooth. Thanks for having me.